Yeah.
Welcome to the channel, folks. Moneystream, aka moneystream.com.au. This morning we've got the pleasure of talking to Jim Penman, the founder and CEO of Jim's Group, with over 5,300 franchisees and growing, representing franchisees in Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. Welcome, Jim, as always.
Yeah, good to be here.
Thank you so much for your time, as always, a kind man. Today, Jim, we're wanting to talk to you and get your expertise on small business. According to statistics in Australia, small business makes a big part of running the economy, as they say, GDP and so forth, for the Australian government. Now, according to research, there's a lot of questions or trials that small business goes through, small business owners. So, for example, profitability, loyalty in hiring individuals, employees, bank loans, if you do need a bank loan where you want to expand, et cetera, and also government regulation, which is a big thing. Give us your insight, your expertise on that to help people out there listening to our interview. Jim, thank you.
There's a whole series of things in there. You're talking to somebody who runs a franchise network, which in a sense is the elite end of the service industry. Our franchisees, based on the most recent survey, turnover average about just under $3,000 a week. That is considerably more than most people do. So you talk people who have invested money in the business, who are part of a structured system, and usually got some sort of decent business or job background to make them suitable, because we do screen to a certain extent. So I'm not sure how typical. I can tell you that last time we did a survey, 91% of our franchisees reported good or satisfactory income, most of them good. So they do pretty well. The earnings they make are well over the average Australian income, especially even more so if you allow for tax advantages of being self-employed. So that's the way I see it. That's a small business in general. Finance is always an issue. We have people we'd love to see as franchisees, just can't raise the finance. We're always looking for better ways of doing it. So that is a struggle too. I would suggest to anybody who's looking to go into business, if you can't afford to get into some sort of a structured system like ours, your best thing is to start part-time. Which is what I did when I was a student. It was my part-time student job. I learned my ropes, and then by the time you're ready to go full-time, you know what you're doing, and you've got a base of clients and so forth.
Yes, absolutely. And also, just while you're on that point, because you've raised that a few times, and I'm a believer in that myself, because I did that when I was young. I always had, my whole family always had part-time job. We learned a lot, actually, even while in school. It was like an apprenticeship, basically. It's so valuable. It's I still wish I was a kid, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I wouldn't mind another 60 odd years to go, that's for sure.
But yeah, with that, I mean, people can do part-time, and for example, with your network, what's to stop individuals to say go up to the local? Because I know many of your blokes and your ladies, of course, there's a lot of ladies in small business. Let's not forget that. Go up to them and ask them for a part-time gig. Like nothing better than mowing lawns and seeing if you like it first, and work part-time before you get into it. I mean, what an apprenticeship.
Well, if you can. The difficulty is you've got to find the right person who's looking for a worker. Some people just give up trying to employ people because it's so difficult. The hardest thing about it is not in our situation. We had over 200,000 unserviced leads last year. The hard thing is finding suitable people who can do the work and do it well. That's not easy. Typically, they'll try several people to find one person who's good. And I always say, don't give up. You have a bad experience or two, keep on trying until you find the one you really want, and then look after them very well.
Yes. And that's part of the questions that I wanted to ask you, that you're going through, of course, with your expertise. Loyalty both in employees and loyalty in customers. How to handle rejection? Because in business, I mean, let's face it, You know, for example, we all eat or go to a restaurant. We don't always like the dish that comes out or the way it's cooked or it was medium rare. And how would you approach rejection? You know, you're the business owner, of course, and the client, for some reason, you know, you've done your best and you've got the best attitude, and the customer tells you at the end, look, I'm not happy with that. How would you approach that so you can, you know, over deliver and you don't lose the deal, if you know what I mean, and you leave, as they say, shaking hands and you're all happy?
Well, if the customer at the end of it says, I'm not happy with that, something's gone wrong. Okay, first of all, are your standards high enough?
Yes.
In my experience, most small business people think they give good service, but in practice, they don't. The service is not good at all. We have a system called Business where we actually sell surplus leads to independent contractors. And I tell you what, we hit them again and again and again, which you must call back, you must turn up on time, and we knock back anybody who doesn't. But even so, the service given by these independents is not as good as our people give. They
Yes.
just so if people aren't happy with what you're doing, the first thing you want to look at, especially if it happens more than once, is what are you doing wrong? Now that could be your job is good enough standard. Like, you know, somebody goes into a lawn which is very long, choose my case, and they just knock it down and it's all stubbly and bad. I have a technique, which you can see on the website actually, where you can cut
I've seen that. I've watched it on your videos. Actually, I love it. I remember doing that myself.
Well, I never had any client complain about any job that I did cutting really long grass. In fact, I can hardly remember any client ever having a problem with the work I did.
Yes.
The other thing is, if your job is good, sometimes the clients won't have you because they're expecting you to do different things. So what you've got to do is to give a very precise quote for what you're going to be doing. So it's a vacate clean. What are you going to be doing? I'm going to do the floors. I'm going to do the bathrooms. Are you doing the windows? Are you wiping the walls down? What exactly? So you write down in detail and go to cut the lawn and pick it up, which you should, generally speaking, unless it's very short. And I'm going to do the gardening. How am I going to weed it? I'm going to poison it. You've got to be very precise about what your customers' expectations are. But if your job is really good, if you've got high standards, customers shouldn't be saying things like that. I can virtually never remember a client being unhappy with the job of mine. But I was meticulous. Like if I did an edge, I want every blade of grass gone. Every blade of grass. You couldn't have one blade.
Yes.
If I picked up the grass, it's all clean. Every little tiniest bit's picked up clean.
Yes.
So if your standards are high enough, if you're getting people to, if people are complaining, that's not good enough. There's something you're doing wrong.
Yes. Yes. No, I totally agree. And I, pardon me, I remember because when I was a youngster, I had, you know, part-time jobs as everyone did, you know, instead of doing the paper, and I started doing law, and I can vouch for what you're saying because I used to mow mum and dad's lawn. I used to love it, but I had a passion for it. Do you think passion for what you're doing, let's say gardening, you love gardening, so do I. I grew up with it with my grandfather, my uncles, my father. A passion where you actually love what you do. Does that sort of add merit to what you're talking about versus we're just doing a job for the money? So just cut it the way you want. As you said, it's long grass and you've got a technique. And I've seen your videos many times. You know, when you go in, you go out, you go in, you go out, and that makes a difference. Do you think having a passion for what you're doing in your small business versus, oh, I'm just in it so I can pay my bills, does that sort of play a part in what you've just covered?
Yeah, it does. When people ask me which division should I go into, I ask them the question about what do you like doing? Because whatever you like doing, you'll be best at, and you'll probably make the most money at. So if you love dogs, dog wash. If you love cleaning, cleaning. If you love gardening outside, then lawn mowing. I still do it as a hobby, and as you know, something I did last night when I last mowed a lawn, and I said, well, last weekend up at my farm, I've got a hand mower. I mowed the grass there, and then I'm planting nuts in the bush and weeding vegetables and stuff. I've got a vast vegetable patch, so this is my hobby.
Fresh air.
Actually, this morning I was taking a short break from work, and I was doing some weeding in our front garden there for my wife. So just enjoy it. So that's why knowing is natural to me. So find something you like doing. Construction. Do you like construction? What about building fences? What about handyman work?
Yes.
Are you electrically minded? What do you want to do?
Yes.
And then that's easier to do it well.
Yes. Yeah. And again I can relate to that because I've read over time maybe in the, with all these uni courses, and I'm guilty. As I said, I'm qualified to study law, but I haven't studied it because of my health. Anyway, do you think that in society now, and I'm a believer in exactly what you're talking about, what you do, that going into, say, these studies at uni, where society requires everyone now to have a degree or a double degree or a triple degree or whatever. But then once people get out, individuals, no fault of their own, of course, it's the system, I believe, they have no understanding of life, how to pay bills, how to run a household. I mean, exactly what you've discussed, do what you love. How do you see that in
Look,
society?
I'm biased, John, obviously, because I love business and I love
Yeah,
small business and I love the business that I had. I was a mine contractor 15 years, so I know what I'm talking about.
absolutely, yeah.
It does strike me, people spend so long getting these university degrees. Like, you get an arts degree, you spend 3 years, you put up a student debt. What have you actually got? Now,
Yeah,
maybe in some jobs it's a bit of a get you through the door to get a job, but my goodness,
yeah,
I was talking to some friends of ours have a son who's in year 12 and he's doing plumbing. It's a
yes,
great thing
yeah,
because he's
yeah,
not academic, he's not good at maths, but he
yeah.
likes doing school things. So, in 3 or 4 years' time, he's going to have a well-paid permanent job doing something there'll always be a demand for. You'll never you can't hire plumbers in India. They've got to
No,
be here.
yes,
So that's a fantastic opportunity. I think too. I've got a daughter who's looking at doing another tertiary qualification. She's already got a BA,
yes,
and she's the opportunity to take over and run a business for somebody else with a share
yeah.
of profits. Well, grab it with both hands.
Exactly, and that's what I'm sort of getting to. I'm not knocking uni because I'm one of them, of course not. But yeah, where does it lead you? Because some individuals, I mean, we all know someone. No disrespect to the individual, it's the system. They'll then buy a house or they'll rent, but they've got no idea how to run money, how to run a household. But they have got a degree, but they've got no experience because the system hasn't given them the opportunity. And as you said, and then you go and cut grass or you do this and you do that, and you really don't know what you're doing. Not you, but the individual. Remember the old tech schools? Remember the old tech schools where they taught you a trade?
Yeah, yeah, we don't do enough of that. There's too much people wanting arts degrees and sit behind a computer. It's just crazy. Our
Yeah,
people on average probably clear a bit over 100 grand a year, which is well over
yeah,
the Australian. You put a job out in a finance job with 50 grand a year, 60 grand a year, and you'll get 100 applicants, half with degrees. That makes no sense. Why do
yes,
people not want to work for themselves?
yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah, yeah, but very interesting. And what I wanted to finish up on is, and thanks very much for all your advice there. I read up in the paper, and I studied a bit of Albert Einstein, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, more importantly, I read up that there was a donation which I was so glad to hear and write in a low socio-economic area suburb overseas, and they donated over $1 billion to the Albert Einstein University Foundation. And to me, what I'm leading into, people that are disadvantaged or for whatever reason they haven't been taught whatever related to business, how do you feel like having someone like you with a wealth of knowledge? And I personally know, because I've been to your training years ago, where you've got the actual CEO founder like you giving all your time, and I know you're very generous. What do you say to people, not only for the gyms, but going out looking for other businesses, an opportunity where you've got someone like you to talk to who's been there, done it, successful, and you're still giving your time, you're still hands-on. What do you say to people to grab an invitation like that and give it a go? What would be your words to that individual? Say it's me, first time, I'm a youngster, just out of uni, I've got a BA, but I don't want to be doing anything behind the desk or sitting in an office, and I'm passionate about gardening because I am. What would you say to me?
Well, first of all, John, I I have a limited amount of time. People have been offering me large sums of money to be their personal mentor, and my answer is
I
no.
believe you.
I'm not in the business of being able to do that. However, if you buy a franchise and you'll get franchisor, but you can contact me anytime you like by email and phone. I'll give you the best help I can. So it runs with the system, but I don't do it as a standalone business. If you're interested in finding out more, though, I mean, there's so much stuff online. You can just follow the link, and you hear me talking like with the podcast you've done. There is thousands of hours of information you can get about how your businesses from myself and from other people who've been so successful. You can learn so much just by researching what's around.
No, the world's a great place, isn't it? I mean, I'm a visual person, Jim, and I even say to people when they ask me, I mean, I'm not an advisor like you are, or got the expertise like you are. I always say, look, work out what's good for you. Like, I'm a visual person. I like to see you talk, and all the other entrepreneurs and Warren Buffett and everything. And there's so much information out there. It's incredible that you can just learn, learn. And then, as you said, find something that's good, that you're good at, and give it a go. And don't be afraid to stumble, because the best thing is, I believe, and you back this up if you believe it, is the best thing you can do when you fall over is get up and give it an even better shot.
Yeah, you're right, John. People ask me we had a thing called Ask Jim, which you might know about every 3 weeks, that people ask questions, and people asking me about who's my mentor. And there's no real one person that I, was taught by or learned so much from. I learn a lot from my franchisees and my franchisors, because they have great ideas that I didn't have. But also reading. I read on average a couple of books a week, and I'm reading magazine articles and The Economist and things like that, New Scientist, and just always getting more information, learning more things all the time. And I'm 71 years old, 72 shortly, and I still keep on learning. I still keep on getting better at things, I reckon.
And attitude is everything. Would you agree with that, Jim?
Yeah, that's right. We always say when you're hiring somebody, bottom comes qualifications. After that comes experience, top of all, character. So if you can pick somebody with a great character, it doesn't matter who they are, where they are. The trouble is finding people with great character. And how do you get them on?
How do you get them on? Yeah, a bit like going fishing. I've been fishing many times, not lately, and I come back empty. So I go to the shop and buy fish and chips. So I just to use an analogy, Jim, thank you as always. You're very kind with your time. Jim Penman, CEO and founder of the Jim's Group, with over 5,300 franchisees in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, and growing. And Jim, we'll see you on the next interview, and we thank you for your time.
All right, thanks, John. See you later.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jim.